Well, on Warriors.com, we got to meet the whole Warrior coaching staff, and there's a lot of brand new guys with a lot of experience and different resumes. So we're starting with the lead assistant, if you will, and Michael Malone. And let's start with, where is the relationship with you and Mark Jackson? Because one of the first things he said in getting the Warrior job was, I got to have Michael Malone with me. How'd that work out?
I paid him a lot of money. New York City. Mark is obviously a Brooklyn guy. My family originally being from Queens, and being the son of a coach, I can remember seeing Mark play when he was in high school back at Bishop Loughlin for Patty Quigley many, many years ago. And I had the opportunity to coach Mark my first year in the NBA with the New York Knicks. And from that 1 year we spent together, we've kind of maintained a relationship from that. And obviously my family and his family go way back a lot further. But and then when I was in Cleveland for 5 years, when he did a lot of our games on TV, we established a closer relationship. And we always talked one day, if he ever got a job, that we'd work together. And as it turns out, he winds up getting the job in Golden State, and he calls me up, and I had some opportunities elsewhere, but I just felt the opportunity to work with Mark, a guy I know, have a history with, who I trust, and he trusts me, was just a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, the Warrior owner, Joe Lake, had been interviewing Michael Malone for the head coaching job, said, if I didn't hire Mark Jackson, I was hiring this Michael Malone, so I wanted them both, actually. Right. So when you talk about other opportunities, it's well known that the Lakers and Mike Brown wanted you as well. But for Joe Lacob to grab Mark Jackson and Michael Malone, it was kind of a nice tandem there.
Right, I guess Joe got what he wanted. He got the both of us, dynamic duo. But, I interviewed for the head job, which was a great experience, and, I hope to be a head coach one day. But being around Joe, seeing his enthusiasm, his passion for the game and for this city and all he hopes to accomplish, I wanted to be a part of that. And it says a lot about Mark Jackson, because the fact that I interviewed for the head job would scare most other head coaches off. But as I mentioned earlier, Bob, the relationship that I had with Mark and him knowing me and going way back did not scare him or deter him, because he knows that my loyalty is with him 100%.
All right, so they have in the NBA now, it started maybe with Tom Thibodeau in Boston and then Chicago, the defensive coordinator now. And really, you're a year removed from New Orleans, allowing 8 fewer points per game. That was the biggest improvement of any team. Dropping their field goal percentage against, which I think is the key stat, dropping that by several percentage points, and not really changing their personnel. What is it about Michael Malone as a defensive guy? Let's start talking NBA defense a little bit here. If you want to go back to New Orleans, but a significant improvement on a year-to-year basis, that jumps out at you.
Well, I've been fortunate to, have the opportunity to work with some great coaches. Jeff Van Gundy brought me in the NBA, and he's a terrific coach, especially on the defensive end. That's a priority for him. Mike Brown in Cleveland, we had great success there for 5 years, and Mike is a big believer in defense, the defensive end of the floor as well. Learned from both of those guys. Went to New Orleans, and I feel uncomfortable at times because people want to say, the word mastermind and guru, all that stuff, and that's not the case at all. I happen to believe in defense. I think that's how you win in the NBA and win consistently. And I was able to work for a coach, Monty Williams, who believed in the same thing. There are a lot of coaches out there who may believe in certain things strongly, but if the head coach doesn't back you up on it, it's not gonna, you're not gonna get the results that you want. And to me, defense is, you have to make it a priority from the first team meeting that you have, from the first practice that you have, and you have to preach it every day. It's not something you can just talk about. We're going to become a better defensive team in Golden State because Mark Jackson believes in it, I believe in it, the whole staff will believe in it. We're going to communicate that to our players, and they're going to have to buy in every day when we work on it. We're going to hold those guys accountable, and we're going to teach it. I think there's a misperception around NBA coaching that there's not a lot of teaching that goes on. Just roll the ball out, let these guys play, they make a lot of money. All the great teams that I've been around, we teach every day and we hold guys accountable and we get better every day because of that. And that's the same recipe we're going to use here in Golden State.
Yeah, I think if you look at the history of the NBA, whether it's hockey and a goalie can dominate or pitcher in baseball can dominate, in basketball, even the great players, Larry Bird or Magic Johnson, they were not great individual defenders,
right,
but they would be in a team concept.
Correct.
If you started to look at tape to break down individual warriors to say, okay, this guy individually may struggle here, so we've got to help him, but there is a team situation. Is that more what you did in New Orleans? Because they're great individual defenders, the Michael Coopers of the world. I don't know if they're born or coached,
right,
but teams can play good defense.
I think that's a great point. And we had a lot of guys in Cleveland that you would not necessarily call great individual defenders. We actually hit a lot of guys because we had great team defense. And you're never going to guard the great players in the NBA one-on-one. It takes 5 guys working as one to stop any good player and any good team. So, and that's where we use the word trust a lot. Trust is a very big component to any successful pro team. And if I'm guarding the basketball, I trust that if I happen to get beat, my teammate's going to be behind me. And that guy knows when he leaves his side to come over and help me, that someone's going to cover him. So it's 5 guys on a string working together as one, where you're always constantly communicating, trusting, and covering for each other. And that's what great defensive teams do. It's not just one guy. Well, one guy's not going to guard 5 guys. It takes a team effort for 48 minutes every night to have a good team defense in the NBA.
We'll finish up this segment in talking about whether the head coach backs you up or believes in you. The one hook that coaches have in the NBA is playing time. So you could be doing everything you want on the offensive end. If you're not playing defense and that coach says, I'm still leaving this player out on the floor, everyone notices. Everyone on the roster notices. How difficult is that to pull out a quality player who's giving it to you on one end,
right,
but not doing what you want defensively?
Well, a couple of things. The bench is your best teacher, as you mentioned. So if a guy's not upholding his end of the bargain, well, come sit down, watch somebody else play, and sooner or later that guy's going to want to play, so he's going to buy in. If not, he's going to stay on the bench, which all these guys don't want to do. So that helps. But as a coach, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't preach defense and then have guys on the floor who aren't doing it and who are not living what we're trying to preach, and let them out there and let them off the hook, because you're going to lose the rest of your team. And I thought Monty Williams last year did a great job of that. If guys weren't defending, no matter what you were doing on offense, you're coming out of the game. Why is that? Because we told you day one, what's our identity? We're a defensive team first and foremost. We're not going to try and outscore teams. We're going to get stops, we're going to rebound, we're going to run with purpose, and we're going to take care of the basketball. Those were our 4 pillars of success. And we're going to use the same philosophy here. If guys don't want to commit and play defense, well, they're going to have to find somewhere else to play.
All right, Michael Malone's going to be handling a lot of the defense for Mark Jackson. We'll talk more with Michael about his background and growing up in the sport of basketball on Warriors.com.